Hi everyone, it's Miss Palmer here, and today we're going over the last section of Unit 5 on foreign exchange, also known as Forex. Exchange rate. The exchange rate equals the relative price of currencies. So this is a great little video. You'll have to YouTube it at some point. It's a Saturday Night Live skit, and it really illustrates devaluation and appreciation of currencies. Plus, it's fun to watch. Exports and imports. 1, the U.S. sells cars to Mexico. 2, Mexico buys tractors from Canada. 3, Canada sells syrup to the United States. 4, Japan buys fireworks from Mexico. For all these transactions, there are different national currencies. Each country must be paid in their own currency. The buyer, the importer, must exchange their currency for that of the seller's exporter. So the turnover in the $4 billion US dollars a day. It's a lot of trading activity going on. Exchange rates. In the foreign exchange market, we only look at 2 countries or currencies at a time. That's how we model it. For example, US dollars and euros. We examine the price of one currency in terms of the other currency. For example, $3 equals 2 euros. The exchange rate depends on which currency you're converting, and you just use algebra to figure that out. The price of 1 US dollar in terms of euros is, so you divide both sides by 3, which brings the dollar down to 1, and you come up with $1 equals 2 divided by 3, which equals 0.66 euros. So for each dollar, you'll get 66 euros back in this particular example. The price of 1 euro in terms of dollars is, well, you divide both sides by 2 up here in the example, because you're converting euros to $1. 1 euro equals how many dollars? So 1 euro equals 3 divided by 2, which is $1.5. What happens if you need more dollars to buy 1 euro? The price for a euro increases. Okay, so for example, from $3 equaling 2 euros to $6 now equaling 2 zeros. What happens? The US dollar is depreciated relative to the euro in this particular example, because it takes more dollars to buy the same amount of euros. Depreciation is the loss of value of a country's currency with respect to a foreign currency. More units of dollars are needed to buy a single unit of other currencies, of the other currency. The dollar is said to be weaker in this particular case. What happens if you need less dollars to buy 1 euro? The price for a euro decreases. So for example, from $3 equals 2 euros to $1 now buys 2 euros. So the US dollar is now appreciated relative to the euro. Appreciation is the increase of value of a country's currency with respect to a foreign currency. Less units of dollars are needed to buy a single unit of the other currency. The dollar is said to be stronger in this particular case. Foreign exchange supply and demand simplified. Imagine a huge table with all the different currencies from every country. This is the foreign exchange market, and a lot of investors will only invest in trading on the foreign exchange. In other words, trading different currencies. Just like a product market, you can't take things without paying. If you demand one currency, you must supply your currency. For example, if Canadians want Russian rubles, the demand for rubles in the foreign exchange market will increase, and the supply of Canadian dollars will increase. So here again, we have two diagrams, two graphs. And on the left, we have euros over dollars. So we're modeling dollars in terms of that, in terms of zeros. So we have the demand for dollars, supply for dollars. Here we have the demand for euros and the supply for euros. And this is the exchange rate at equilibrium for each one of these. So what happens if Europeans prefer vacationing in the United States? Something's going on there. Well, that means that there's a higher demand for US dollars, a greater demand. So the demand curve for dollars shifts to the right and the exchange rate increases to the new equilibrium point. What happens to the euros? Well, the dollar appreciates on the left. What happens to the euros is that the supply curve of euros shifts to the right. And therefore, the exchange rate for euros drops at the new equilibrium point in quantity. So the euro depreciates. Okay, I would suggest taking a screenshot of this so you have a better understanding of this. Two-way shift. Well, not really two-way shift, a shift in one diagram and a shift in the other. Foreign exchange shifters. Let's use the example of the US dollar and the British pound. You have changes in taste. That's the first shifter. So, for example, British tourists flock to the United States. The demand for US dollars increases and shifts to the right. The supply of British pounds increases and shifts to the right. The pound depreciates and the dollar appreciates. Okay, number two shifter is our changes in relative incomes resulting in more imports. So, for example, the US growth increases US incomes. So the US buys more imports. The US demand for pounds increases, and the supply of US dollars increases. So the pound ends up appreciating, and the US dollar depreciates in this example. Okay, moving on. The third one are changes in relative price level, so resulting in more imports. So for example, US prices increase relative to Britain. The US demand for cheaper imports increases. The US demand for pounds increase. The supply of US dollars increases. The pound ends up appreciating and the dollar depreciates. Okay, let's go to example four shifter, pardon me. Okay, so the fourth shifter are changes in relative interest rates. So for example, the US has a higher interest rate than Britain. British people want to put money in the US banks. Capital flow increases towards the US. British demand for US dollars increases. British supplies more pounds. So the pound depreciates and the dollar appreciates. Now, if you notice in all these examples I've given you for the shifters, if one country's currency appreciates, the other depreciates. Okay, what will happen to the international value of the Mexican peso if there is a high inflation in Mexico? So here's the diagram for pesos, and here's the explanation. So you started with, you've got your exchange rate here at the intersection of the supply of pesos and the demand for pesos, right here. So there's a high inflation rate in Mexico, and this is what happens. The peso depreciates because the demand for pesos will decrease since Mexico's trading partners will not want to purchase higher priced Mexican products. So the demand curve will shift to the left. Okay, so it goes from here to here, D to D1. And then the supply will increase as Mexicans look to buy lower priced imports. So the supply curve also shifts to the right. So the demand curve shifts to the left, and then the supply curve follows by shifting to the right. Then the exchange rate has now depreciated or dropped. Okay, here's more practice. I would suggest taking a screenshot of this worksheet, and the examples, the practice examples are here. So the directions will be for each of the following examples, identify what will happen to the value of US dollars and the Japanese yen. And ideally, you'll put your responses on that previous page that you took a screenshot of. So I'm going to populate all the examples. Excuse me. So 1, American tourists increase visits to Japan. 2, the US government significantly decreases personal income tax. Example 3, inflation in Japan rises significantly faster in the US. Excuse me. 4, Japan has a large budget deficit that increases Japanese interest rates. 5, Japan places high tariffs on all US imports. 6, the US suffers a larger recession. 7, the US Federal Reserve sells bonds at high interest rates. How do these scenarios affect exports and imports? So you should be able to put this out there on that previous page worksheet. And so I would take a screenshot of this now, try to work out the examples. The next slide, I will give you the answers. So you'll want to take a screenshot of that as well. Okay, here we go. All right, here are the answers. So take a screenshot of this and see if you can work everything out on your own, and you can check your answers against this. Okay, moving on. Oh, scenarios 1, 2, and 4 will increase US exports because US products are now relatively cheaper. Okay, here we go. Next slide. Okay, so this is from the 2008 audit exam for the AP test. If the exchange rate between the United States dollar and the British pound changed from $2 to £1 to $3 to £1, and domestic prices in both countries stay the same, then the United States dollar would what? So you're looking at paying more dollars for the same amount of pounds. So here's the answer. Depreciate. Dollar depreciates, making the United States imports from Britain more expensive. Okay, here's another exam question. If the real interest rate in the United States increases relative to that of the rest of the world, capital should flow into the United States and the dollar will appreciate. High interest rates attract foreign currency. Okay, moving on. Exchange rate regimes. So, fixed exchange rate, that's the government activity manages the country's currency. Okay, that's the fixed exchange rate. A floating exchange rate, the market determines the value of the country's currency. Some governments attempt to depreciate their country's currency in order to promote exports. Okay, here's another example of an FRQ. I would suggest taking a screenshot of this and trying to work through the answers. And you know what's coming the next slide with rubric. So here we go. Here's the rubric. And actually, if you go online on YouTube and YouTube the question, you will get a full-blown explanation as to how to solve this FRQ. So the 2010 FRQ number 3. Okay, there's some great instructional videos out there. Jacob Clifford puts them out, and if you just Google ACDC economics, you will find them, and they're a great review. 5 key graphs, and here's an excellent review for macro. There's also another one online for reviewing for your micro exam as well. Okay, everybody. That's the end of my presentation. So everybody have a great day, and we'll see you in the next video. All right. Good luck on your AP exams. Ms. Palmer signing out.